What is going on, Amazon sellers? Welcome back to the weekly live news and Q&A show where we bring you a bit of levity, a bit of common sense, and a bit of nuance. I'm Chris Grant, along with my ampliloquent co-host, Chris Rasick. And today, as always, we'll be chatting a few pieces of news of interest to you guys as Amazon sellers. And of course, we'll be taking your guys' questions about anything relating to Amazon, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, wholesale, brand gating, section 3s, everything under the sun. You can drop your questions in the chat. It's going to get a little heavy today. It is going to... it's also, I think we might be a little bit, there might be a soapbox or two today. But you know what? I am in a really good mood because here in Florida, it's the eve of sweater weather. Tomorrow morning, it's supposed to be like 55, and I'm excited to pull out a new sweatshirt that has been sitting in my closet for like 3 months.
Oh, I don't care what anybody says. Shorts and hoodie weather is the best.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's my favorite.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice. How's your week been, man?
Week is good. Week's been like the state of Amazon, and it's been less like actual busy work, and I feel more consumed by the analysis, everyone's analysis of the state of Amazon, just conspiracy theories. I've gone through so much tinfoil this week. It normally doesn't consume me. Normally I can read stuff and be like, that's a stupid take, and just keep scrolling, but it somehow it grabbed me this week. Somehow I became invested. I'm excited to. This is like the analysis of the Amazon death rattle, apparently, is what we've got planned this week. We're gonna the pre-autopsy.
I will say that I not only had to use quite a bit of tinfoil this week, but I also had to use some duct tape because my head wanted to explode. And typically I scroll right past some things, but I took the bait on one post this week. And I didn't call anybody stupid or anything like that, but I did use some words that are strong for me, like intellectually incapable. And coming from me, that is harsh criticism.
Whatever it is that you just preempted that you didn't say, I muttered to myself reading through your interaction with that person. So it was entertaining in a bad way. Like, ugh. Yeah. Remember, folks, that your best friend on social media is the mute button. I heard somebody big that I listened to, like somebody with a massive amount of followers. They said, I don't think people realize how much control you have over the curation of your social media. And I was like, thank you. Yes. Like we've been saying that all along. That's why we, that was why we claim that Twitter is our favorite social media platform, because of the level and the fine tuning you can do with curating what you see in your newsfeed.
Exactly.
They've done it the best, in my opinion, and they're still doing it the best, even as its owner gets weirder and weirder. I'm surprised that like his lunacy hasn't affected my opinion of his product. So
right. Luke coming in here with some common sense that I'm gonna shoo away. Just drop out of all social media like him. Sir.
Knock it off, Luke.
Sir.
The Cub Scouts have entered the chat. Stop it.
Now, listen, before we get started, I do need to tell you guys about the sponsor this week. The sponsor of the show this week it's me. Right now, we are running a Black Friday sale which, yes, it's not even November yet. But if they're putting up Christmas trees at your local Hobby Lobby, we're going to run a Black Friday sale. So running a Black Friday sale on everything, trying to get it out of the way so that you guys can use the knowledge or the products or whatever we have during Q4. And this includes our OA Challenge replays. And that's the latest one, of course, from just a couple months ago. It includes Keepa Academy. If you want to deep dive into how Keepa actually works, the Wholesale Challenge, which is hosted by Corey Ganem, a friend of the pod, the Amazon to Amazon Flips Challenge. If you want to learn how to take advantage of those A to A flips in Q4 from Saul. Saul sells stuff over on Twitter and a friend of the pod. Our Keepa SOPs, which are literally like 65 standard operating procedures of different ways to use Keepa. And something new that it's not even out yet. It starts here in a couple of days, but our credit cards points challenge is going to be hosted by a gentleman named Tom Mays. For under $200, you could learn to fly first class the rest of your life by properly using your credit cards. In my opinion, this may be one of the best values of the challenges that we have. And the guy who's teaching it is just a wealth of knowledge. And then, of course, our old standby IP Alert. We've got a lifetime license to IP Alert on sale for 50% off. You can get it for under $100. You just have to use code, I think it's B Friday. Yeah, B Friday 50 at checkout. You can head over to cleartheshelf.com/Black Friday, and you can get a deal on every single one of these things. But I do think it's going to be over later this weekend. I didn't build the sales page or come up with the sales timeline, so I can't remember for sure. But that is cleartheshelf.com/Black Friday. All right.
And
Mark,
you know what? Just real quick before we move off of the promo, I know you won't do it. You're far too humble. But keep in mind, like if you're considering it, and maybe you weren't with us from the start of our pod and whatnot, but essentially these courses, the quality and how helpful they are is essentially why we're here today. You know, if it wasn't for one of Chris's courses that I took and absolutely loved and vastly improved my skill as an Amazon seller, I wouldn't have tried to stay in contact with him and become part of his network and have him in part of mine, right? And that's how this thing all got started. That's why we're here every Wednesday. That's why we have, what are we, 60 episodes deep in the podcast? Essentially, that's that all stems from the quality of these courses. That's how good they are. And I will, I mean, we're friends now, but even if we weren't, even if I didn't successfully add you to my network like I wanted to, I would still be raving about the quality. So jump on it. It's a really smart idea to do this pre-Black Friday, so you have it in place when the event actually happens. You consistently over deliver. That's something that anything you put your name on, that is definitely a calling card of yours. So
thank you.
Pull the trigger if you're on the fence, people.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Mark says he's stoked for the credit card challenge. I am too. Chris has actually made me a little bit better with credit cards. But I know that I've probably got a long way to go. And so I'm really going to be paying attention to this one.
And there's a new one of the Chase Inks has an elevated offer that I think just started this week. They bumped it up to 90,000. So I mean, I'm telling you, by day one of this credit card challenge, you could easily have 218,000 Chase Ultimate Rewards points pending in your account day one. And that's geez, I mean, that's at least what, a couple business class flights. I mean, that's probably 5 nights in a hotel for free. I mean,
I'll tell you what, it was 165,000 points to fly from Orlando to Dubai for my wife in first class. So that's it's a $15,000 plane ticket is what that is, you know.
Yeah. So day one, you can fly to Dubai and have the whole flight in business class to figure out what you're going to do with the remaining 50,000 points you picked up. So yeah, there's some serious value in this.
Yeah, I agree. Corey's got a credit card challenge for himself where his challenge is to pay off all of his credit cards. Is that kind of the same thing? Yeah, it's in the same vein, Corey. Yours sounds a little bit more difficult, though.
Yeah,
all right.
Not carrying a balance is for nerds. Come on, Corey.
Yeah. That zero balance on your credit card come with a pocket protector. All right. We got
and your 0% interest going to prom together.
we got news to get to. There's been a ton of changes in Amazon over the past week, and the first one is a change to the bundles. So, sort of. Here's the thing: Amazon came out and they clarified their bundle policy. Okay. And I figured I'd just read it to you. So sellers can create bundles composed of different products to create a new bundled product. And then they go on to say that well-designed product bundles provide convenience and value to the buyers, as long as you adhere to their policies, et cetera, and so on. And they don't want you to, they want to prevent duplicate or near duplicate listings. So they say that in one breath. Bundles are great for the consumer. But then in the very next breath, they say that bundles that include consumable goods in the grocery, pet product, baby product, and health and beauty categories must follow these guidelines. You can only list bundles that are created and offered by the original manufacturer, who must be the brand owner for all items in the bundle. For example, you could list a bundle of, say, Dawn dish spray, as well as the dish spray refills, which is originally configured and packaged by Dawn. And their example is a Costco-sized Dawn spray thing with like 5 refills. Okay. But you could not bundle, say, a Dawn dish product with a pair of gloves or sponges from another manufacturer. So one that I've seen is like a Dawn dish soap with a Scrub Daddy. And that was a really popular bundle, but you can't do that. Okay. You cannot rebrand any bundle products by adding non-manufacturer branded intellectual property to the product images or the product title. I'm going to be honest with you. This is going to be a huge blow to some very big sellers. What I would imagine are 8-figure sellers. I'm not talking 10 million a year. I'm talking like 20, maybe 30 million a year. By the Spoon is who I'm thinking about right off the top of my head. You got honey sticks with tea bundles. You've got spoons with, all these bundles that are created, and essentially their business, which technically was in a very gray area, in my opinion, is now done overnight. You can't list any packaging or unrelated items, including supplementary services, as a unique product in the bundle if you are not a manufacturer. So I'll give you an example of this one. There is a pretty popular anti-diarrheal product. That's an Equate branded pill that a lot of people sell with a little book. Okay. And if you order this item, I ordered it because I thought about doing this myself. You order it, and it's just a little paper fold out thing. It tells you how to have better stomach health and things like that. And they just shrink wrap it all together. And so now you have this book that goes along with an Equate branded product. And these were becoming they were all over the place. There were people copying it basically for verbatim with their own brand. So that's going to be a no-go anymore. You also can't list bundles under the generic brand. We've known that for a while. And you can't list unbranded products in a bundle. So, and then you have to display the barcode of the entire bundle clearly in the product image. Those are all the things. Failure to adhere to this bundle policy, including following the detailed bundle guidelines, may result in the removal of any bundled product listing, an account suspension, or both. Then, of course, Amazon reserves the right to revoke or change this policy at any time. This was used by some to say that resellers are dead, which is just asinine, silly. This has been known for quite some time. Like, we knew that this was a problem, and sellers have been talking about, man, the catalog is really getting cluttered. But it was never in black and white. It was kind of like, well, can I do this? Can I not do this? And people weren't 100% sure. And now it's just plain and clear. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. I have an opinion that it says no multi-packs, essentially. Like, you can't sell 2 packs of, say, mac and cheese. I've got a feeling they're going to look the other way on that. Now, I'm not saying go and list on these products immediately and you're going to be safe, but I've got a feeling that Amazon's going to look the other way. But I know that Amazon wants to get rid of the refrigerator magnets listed with the grocery products, and that's what they're looking to do.
Right. And you can see where this is coming from. I mean, we talked a little bit before the show. It is surprising that they drop the hammer on multi-packs completely, unless they're, assembly, your own assembly is not allowed. Basically, that's what it takes. If you have to build it yourself, that's out, all things considered. So, I mean, I guess I see it. Maybe they unwind that part. Maybe they allow some multi-packs, but I think the main concern is the actual brand, because you had people. There's that one seller that just bought everything that Spring Valley vitamins came out with, and they did a little pamphlet, and their listings were completely clear. So I don't know if they were filing violations on their own brand to keep that clear, or I don't know how they got to the point where no one jumped on it with them, right? But if you think about it, that's an issue, because that's Spring Valley IP ultimately, and the person who created that listing, you don't really have any ownership of it except for the idea to put these two things together, and realistically, if you're subscribe and save to vitamins, you don't need the same pamphlet every 60-90 days when you reorder. It's not exactly. I doubt the information is getting updated. It's not like, I mean, this is despite whatever work they put into it, that they would say, well, I painstakingly prompted AI for all that information, or whatever they might say. It's a limited value, if it even has any. Exactly. It was simply a way to take the playground to yourself, at least with that one listing. Take it for yourself. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, you get into the issue. Like, what would Spring Valley say? I mean, everyone seems to think that all these brands and Amazon kind of meet at the water cooler, like everybody's in some, they all work in the same building or something. That's how because they chit chat, and that's where all these conspiracies come up with. I'd like to find out where that location is. But like, you think, like, if that actually happened and Amazon said, hey, Spring Valley, what do you think about reselling for to retire early's bundle with that little pamphlet. They'd be like, what are you talking about? Show me, and shut it down. Because they
Right.
don't Spring Valley doesn't know about that, and they certainly wouldn't approve of it if they knew about it. So you're right,
Yeah.
it was a gray area. It was a great idea while you could get away with it,
Mhm.
right? And now you
For the
simply can't
seller,
get
not necessarily the consumer.
correct. Yeah, yeah. No, as just kind of on the back end, with all the third party sellers, that was I know we've had conversations about it. It was a great idea. Like, man, you could have it all to yourself, and there's nothing that explicitly states that you can't do that, and it was a great idea. While you could get away with it, but that's the issue. You can no longer get away with it,
Mhm.
and I think the reaction as a seller to this news is directly correlated to how many of these types of bundles you have in your catalog. Like I don't think I have any. So the news didn't bother me. Now
Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
there are people who probably had a little trouble getting to sleep after this news.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah. And Misa, yeah, those listings that have magnets or spoons, no, because first of all, those things really weren't adding value. So now I would argue that honey sticks with tea bundles, okay, I can see that.
Yeah,
If you're someone who puts honey in your tea, uh, and you go through your tea bundle and then you order again, the honey sticks would be useful again because they're both consumable products. But the measuring spoon with the cup of noodles multi-pack, that's not really a value add. And that's the because you don't need, you know, if that's something you buy once a month and you've been doing it for the past 3 years, you don't need 36 measuring spoons.
right.
12 will get you through. Um, and so it's not truly a value added product. And then I see here, what about FBM and a two-step model? That doesn't have anything to do with this. This is about listing creation. You're kind of talking about drop shipping, and the two-step model, in my opinion, is too slow in today's marketplace to be effective on Amazon in the U.S. market. You might be able to do that, from U.S. to Canada or something, but your OTDR is going to get wrecked with a two-step drop shipping model, which, in my opinion, may be why one of the reasons why OTDR was enacted. But going down a little tangent now, one of the things that I think is helpful is asking the question why, because sure, we're just sellers, and things like that, but it's important to understand like where Amazon's coming from. Is this because they're getting a bunch of flack from the FTC? Yeah, I was thinking about this. The FTC and Amazon's court case is not going to trial until October of 2025. So they've got a year to be able to back channel, which if you don't think that happens, go watch a episode of some legal drama, and that happens. They back channel and they negotiate on things, and then charges get dropped, before trial starts and all that kind of stuff. So if the FTC is looking out for the consumer and they think that there's a bunch of consumer confusion because of these kind of things, and Amazon's like, you know what, maybe you're right. We'll go in and we'll change this policy and get all of those taken down. So maybe we can drop that out of here. That is very possible. But also, they may just be taking a look at the catalog and being like, hey, why are all these sales, from these regular listings that used to get all this traffic being diverted to 32 other listings that now have a refrigerator magnet and are selling mayonnaise? They just want it going to the original listing. So this isn't going to necessarily create fewer sales on Amazon, it's just going to redirect the sales to where Amazon wants them to go. Now, does that mean they're all going to go to Amazon first party? No. They're going to go to other listings is all it is. So those were the things that I was thinking, like, why might this be happening now?
And you mentioned the FTC. I wonder if how many of these products that are now not allowed are only sold on Amazon, right? So if you eliminated a healthy portion of items that you can only get on Amazon, even though it's simply just a product with a magnet or a multi-pack in a box with someone's brand on it or something, some of these, or a sticker included with something, you could argue if hey, if Amazon could say, hey, we took this action to remove products that were only being sold on our marketplace to prove that we're not a monopoly, and might they want it to look more like all the other store shelves in a digital format, right? Is that a plausible argument to be made when you're trying to argue that you're not a monopoly?
I think so. I think it's totally plausible.
Yeah, I do too.
And Samantha, what about variety pack shampoo, conditioner, or a multi-flavor pack? If it's consumable, Amazon says if it's not created by the manufacturer, you're not supposed to list it. Yeah, I think there's an argument here for having a shampoo and conditioner bundle. Do they actually take those down? That would be one where I'm like, yeah, it makes sense to have those. You can buy the shampoo, you can buy the conditioner, and there's a shampoo and conditioner bundle. And it makes sense. It's not priced incredibly higher than buying both of them, on separate listings. We're gonna have to wait and see on those kind of things to see what happens. I'm not going to go out and start sourcing shampoo and conditioner bundles, right now. I'm going to hold off and see how this thing, plays out. But to my thought process is that one does not harm the consumer. Now, if it is a shampoo and conditioner bundle, that is, say, Tresemme, and somebody has branded it, I don't know, Chris's good hair, and I've added in a comb, that one is not going to be okay.
Right. And why are the shampoo and conditioner bundles always 1 and 1 when, from the evidence of my own home, it's clearly a 1 shampoo bottle to 10 bottles of conditioner ratio. I don't know why they do 1 and 1. That's not. I'm not sure that's realistic from what I can see.
I'd love to say that I know. I mean, I have a wife. I know how it goes, and I would say that's the case. But I personally, I use shampoo, conditioner, body wash, and axle degreaser all in one, and so it's just one bottle for me.
I hear you. It's much easier. It's so much easier.
Right. All right. So the next thing is we've got another clarification that has come out, and this one is on invoices. Amazon actually has a page now, and I've never seen this page before, but the information that's included in it, I knew. And so while this seems new and it's being touted as new across social media, I'm not 100% sure, but it's all about invoices and what's required for an invoice. And so they have been very clear. Invoices must include a clearly displayed issue date within the past 365 days before the receipt of any performance notification. Quantity sufficient to cover your sales volume for each ASIN cited in the performance notification over the past 365 days. Sales records of each ASIN associated with the policy violation. You may choose to highlight the specific product you're appealing for. I was always told you're not supposed to annotate, and I told people to annotate all the time, but Amazon says it's okay to do that. Product identifiers that are easy to understand. contact information of your supplier, including a name, a phone number, an address, and a website. Now, and I'm going to get to this here in a second, but here's something else that's important. Any document you provide must be authentic and unaltered. That's fine. You can remove pricing information from the invoices, but make sure all the other information is visible and clear. We might reach out to the supplier to verify your documents. The invoice must be in PDF or image files, and the invoice must document a completed and fulfilled transaction. Okay. But here, and so I'm going to get to a couple of these because a couple of these are really important and should help you if you have a Section 3, if you have some sort of violation and you're having trouble. All right. So, note on suppliers: your supplier should have a strong web presence that can be verified through government resources such as business tax registration numbers, where applicable, or other credible third-party sources such as brand websites or business directories. Everyone is focusing on this 365 days. If you've ever gotten any kind of policy violation, this wording is right in there. This is, this is not Amazon, choking out the retail arbitrage seller, the online arbitrage seller. These are not the last shakes of a dying body. This is something that has been around for a while. Now, when it comes to things like Lego and investing in Lego, I just thought everyone just knew that that's one of the risks you're taking. Especially if you invest in Lego. Personally, if I were holding on to it for a while and selling something for 3 times the retail price that I know is going to be a collector item, I'm probably going to overbox it. I'm going to make sure that it all looks good. Like, it's going to be unlikely that I'm going to get an inauthentic claim on the item because everything is going to be perfect. And so I thought this was just one of the risks that you were taking. But now it is in black and white. Like, if it's 366 days that your receipt is from, Amazon says they're not going to take it. But again, does Amazon stick to their guns on this? I would say that if it happens today, probably, because you have poor training for Amazon associates. Uh, if an Amazon associate's like, oh, well, they came out with something new, I need to stick to the letter of this law. And then as time goes on and they see more and more sellers who make a very solid case, hey, I bought this Lego from Target 490 days ago. Here's a picture of it on my shelf where I allow Legos to age. And here's a very clear invoice. And you can see that Target is a legitimate supplier. Like, down the road, does that loosen up a little bit? Because like some common sense does prevail over time. I think so. But right now, could it be a problem? Yeah, maybe. But it's always been this way. It's not new. And I'm glad Ken, chimed in here. This is not new information. It's just now clearly stated on one of Amazon's terms.
Yeah. And the thing with Lego, you can also show that it is now retired. There's enough common sense, there's enough logic to be used. Like, it may take, if you have a string of bad luck on the people who end up receiving your emails, if you have to appeal an inauthentic claim, I think it's a matter of time before you can paint a very clear picture that, no, I've held this and it's not being offered anymore. There are no invoices less than 365 days because this is now a retired product. This is clearly authentic. I bought it when it was available. Here's the fact that it's an older dated invoice is actually proving authenticity in that case. How would they do it with a rare book? How would you prove authenticity on a first print of something that was printed in the 1950s and it has been out of print for several years? It's the same scenario. You can't produce a receipt or even a copyright that the book's been printed in the last year, or that you bought it within the last year. You know, so yeah, I don't think that's going to be what kicks out your appeal. At least not in the end. It may first couple times, like you mentioned, especially when it's fresh, and everyone's gotten a memo that, hey, guess what cool stuff we're sending out to sellers this week. But I think enough repetitions of logic and common sense will get you through.
I believe so too. Now, I wanted to bring this up because in my opinion, there are some breadcrumbs here that Amazon is giving us. Okay. First of all, they tell us your invoice must be PDFs or image files. We knew that. Okay. But I have seen people, send like TIFF files. And I'm like, what are you working on a Windows 95? Was my first thought. But the other thing is like, why would this not be in something that everyone uses? So that's one thing. You need to pay close attention to what they want. The other thing is that Amazon wants invoices, and remember that invoice is a synonym of receipt. So don't get caught up in the terms that they're using. Okay. I just beat a section 3 with all receipts. None of them had invoice up at the top right-hand corner, saying that it was paid. All right. But it must document a completed and fulfilled transaction. All right. This right here is something that I see from people quite often. I send in the receipts. No, not good enough. Okay. Because they want to see that your supply chain is clean. All right. They want to see that you've got the receipt, which, listen, I've got a receipt from Dick's Sporting Goods for something I bought just the other day. I've got the receipt in my hand. All right. But guess what? Dick's canceled the transaction. It's not being sent out to me, but I still got that receipt. All right. If I were to have this product in hand, I need to show that it's been completed and fulfilled. Make sure that you're not just saving your receipts. Make sure that you're saving your order confirmations. Make sure you're saving your shipping confirmations, and you're saving your delivery confirmations. Anyone worth their salt as an e-commerce provider, Dick's, Walmart, all those places, they send all that stuff out. And even if they don't, it's not that hard to get that information if there's a tracking number. Start saving all of that stuff. Okay. That will show a nice little chain of supply chain, your own little supply chain. All right. But the other thing is that they want to see that your suppliers have a strong web presence. That is, honestly, I think that was one of the saving graces, because one of the receipts that I used in my section 3, I'd never heard of this place until I bought from them. Okay, I'm not gonna give them up either, because I actually think it's a pretty good source. But I'd never heard of them before. But they have a strong web presence, and I was able to show that. Here is their website. Here's the information stating that they do not have a phone number. Here's their CEO. Here's their CEO's LinkedIn page. Here is the results on Google. Here's their Trustpilot information. Like, Amazon's giving us these breadcrumbs of ways that we can show them that we're sourcing from legitimate suppliers. And honestly, in my opinion, this actually makes online arbitrage easier than wholesale, because Jim and Bob's wholesale down the street in the little flex space warehouses. Yeah, they've got a website. They've got an Alta Vista web page, and that's it. And of course, they've got their plaque from being members of the local small business club from 1999 on their wall. But that doesn't do me a whole lot of good when I got to show Amazon.
Junior achievement plaque.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, here's it. Does it does it make retail arbitrage from mom and pop stores more difficult, or is this similar to the 365 wording where it's there, but it's probably a non-issue if you ever have to present it as evidence of authenticity?
I think it's a non-issue. My reasoning is let's say, for example, well, heck, one of the sources this week for our Q4 group was it was a local uh like beach shop. Okay. Like a little touristy beach shop.
Mhm.
But they also do e-commerce. Well, they've got a nice little Google My Business listing. I could pull that up. They've got a website. I'm going to be able to pull up their LLC information from whatever Secretary of State they're in. Like, I'm not worried about that one. uh and their web, and even if they didn't have a web presence, chances are, I mean, the little mom and pop grocery store down the street, they've got a GMB listing, a Google My Business listing that I could pull up. They have an LLC and a resale certificate that I could pull up, so I don't think that would be too much of an issue.
See, I'm thinking about the hardware store down in that shady part of town where the guy still smokes cigarettes in the store. Like, I guarantee he doesn't have a Google My Business. But he
Yep.
may have some discontinued Arm and Hammer products that are going for good. Where's Zach Altmeyer when we need him? Is he worth?
Right.
You know, but you know what?
Yeah.
The key word is your supplier should have. Uh, you know, that's not definitive. They should. It kind of might not. It isn't a stretch. So
Mhm.
they're not saying your supplier needs to have. They use the word should. So if their grammar, if they're finicky with their grammar, there may be a little leeway there.
Yeah. I will, and I'm sure that Andy Jassy is not listening, but if he is, I will say that whoever wrote this did include a bold-faced lie right at the end of it. That says, if we reject an appeal that included invoices, refer to your performance notifications that will identify any reasons why we could not accept the invoices you provided. Sir, that whoever wrote this, you lied right through your teeth, and that will be remembered. So we're marking that down in the book.
See, and we recently got they repeated the poll question of my account. I don't worry about my account being suspended on uh I forget how they described it, but unexpectedly, I think, right?
Yeah,
I like when that pops up. That's in the rotation on a regular basis. I'd love to see them analyze the results and what they do, you know.
right. Yeah, or
It's
do
like
they even look at them? They're just like, what? This will make sellers feel good. Make it feel like they're seen.
that that's their evergreen post. Like, I can't come up with anything good. Yeah, just run the suspension one again.
Right.
The department that
Lisa,
filters this stuff will get a kick out of it.
Misa, any TJ Maxx or Marshalls concerns? In my opinion, no, not as long as you're doing things the right way, which is taking the item, taking a photo of it next to the receipt, that shows the item number from the store with the item number on the receipt. TJ Maxx, Marshalls, REI, Home Goods, all of those stores under that umbrella, they have very strong web presence, and it would have no issue being able to prove to Amazon that that's what it was. All right, I've got two more things. Of course, we've had brand gatings this week, and this is actually the thing that got me into a little bit of a back and forth. The Lego gating was the reason that reselling is essentially a garage sale on Amazon, which is a horrible take. Yeah. So here's what was gated: Lego, Fisher Price, and Funko. These are the three that I want to focus on first. All right. And the reason being is that some people are like, oh, hey, everyone just got gated in everything Lego, Fisher Price, and Funko. No, they didn't. Some people got gated. I am ungated. I'm actually having a little bit of a rough go of it after some changes were made to my account. A lot of things have been gated for me, but I'm currently selling Lego, currently selling Fisher Price, and currently selling Funko, and not gated in any of those three. Now, I am gated in Star Wars Lego, but everything else that's regular Lego, no problem. So some sellers got gated. Now, we have a couple of things to think about. Okay. Did this happen because it's Q4? That is a possibility. In the past, there was a time, and many of you may not have been around for this, but there was a time where they would shut down the entire toy category if you did not meet certain requirements and you could not sell toys, period, in Q4. There was a time when you could not merchant fulfill anything in Q4 unless you meet certain requirements by October. And they did this to try and protect a category that gets a higher number of counterfeits, or did get a higher number of counterfeits. Is this what Amazon is doing? Because I was contacted by another friend of the pod and a very big seller who was having some issues, whose friend was having some issues. And we were going back and forth about it a little bit. And sure enough, one of the products that their friend was selling was being absolutely inundated by very bad counterfeit products. Okay. Apparently, this product went viral for a weird reason. Apparently, the product went viral in the furry community after reading some of the reviews, which I didn't know was big enough to make something go viral. And then people saw this and they started selling like really cheap, really bad knockoffs. Whether they were Chinese sellers or just sellers who were buying from AliExpress, I can't say. And people got caught up in that. Okay. So is this Amazon protecting the consumer through Q4? Maybe. I've noticed that a lot of the sellers who got these were sellers who sell in the US but are not based in the US, which makes me scratch my head a little bit. And I wonder, do these get lifted in Q1? Do they become something that you can request to get ungated in Q1 after Q4 is over? And honestly, if that's the case, this is not new territory. Amazon did this to Frozen items back when Frozen first came out, because a number of counterfeits came in. One day I was ungated, the next day I was gated, and I had to send Amazon Walmart receipts to get ungated again. They did this with Star Wars, specifically the Black Series, when those started coming out. This is not new. This feels like Amazon trying to protect the consumer and, honestly, their reputation.
Yeah, and that's where I ended up in one of the conspiracy theories that I jumped in. Yeah, the image that the brand that they're trying to protect is Amazon's. They want to be known. They certainly don't want to get a reputation for having too many fakes. I mean, that gets out, and that's tough. That's a tough reputation to shake.
Yes, it is.
Especially. And we didn't get into it. Didn't end up going this way, but I know we were talking about it. And yeah, there's something to be said about it, because the last numbers that I saw were 3 out of every 4 adults have access to Prime, Amazon Prime, right?
That sounds right.
2 out of 3, at least 2 out of 3, right? So
oh no, I think we lost Chris. Well, I'll fill the air while Chris comes
it,
back. There he is.
Hey, sorry about that. I could almost feel that coming the way I was. There's too much Frozen being streamed around the household right now. That's probably the issue. But think about that from a growth perspective. You know, there are only so many more households that Amazon can sell Prime benefits to, right? So now, so when the majority of the public have access to Prime, you know, and we know shopping, we know the dollars spent go get higher when you subscribe to Prime. You know, they've done that research, and they have the numbers that we've seen the numbers on that. So now it becomes quality control. You know, now you have to protect the product itself. You know, the first step is to get into every household, and then once you're in, it becomes a retention thing, right? That becomes the biggest moneymaker. You know, you have to keep those dollars, you know, because we know marketing. Hell, I first heard it when I worked at a pizza shop. You know, we know the cost of it's so much cheaper to retain an existing customer than it is to acquire a new one. And acquiring new ones is even less and less of a possibility as the proliferation of Prime continues.
Exactly. Yeah. Amazon, I mean, Amazon is essentially, they have to keep their nose clean. They don't have a choice if they want to, you know, keep the likes of Walmart and other marketplaces at bay, you know, for a while. Now, there were some other gatings, and some of these we knew were coming. You know, the Ordinary, for example. The Ordinary is owned majorly by Estee Lauder, and it also has a date in the future for when it's becoming gated. So we know that one's not coming back. Estee Lauder is taking that one over brand direct, right? But then we've got Revlon. Revlon was getting gated pretty quickly. Not necessarily surprising, but we'll see what happens. It's actually surprising how much makeup is counterfeited. You would be surprised. And then Vaseline is getting gated. I'll be honest with you, Vaseline not a huge loss. As you know, as long as I can still sell baby oil, no Diddy, I think is the right thing to say there. Big hit to the baby oil industry, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, gatings, they happen. You know, there are hundreds of other brands. There are new brands all the time that are coming to the marketplace. Like, yeah, it sucks. It's frustrating, you know, but it's why I've always talked, you know, going an inch deep and a mile wide. It's not like the sexiest thing to do, you know. It's not looping the biggest bolo of Q4, but it's a whole heck of a lot safer for cash flow and for having to deal with a bunch of items, you know, coming back to you and things like that. Like if Fisher Price had gone gated for me, I think I'd be 20 to 40 units that I'd have to find another place to sell them, you know. Not There's something to be said of not buying hundreds of units deep.
Right. Yeah. The best thing you can do is, and we've been preaching this for a long time, is monitor your own database. You know, make sure you have a process in place. If you want to go deep and you want 100 units, buy 25 different times. You know, like special find, you know, figure out sales cycles, figure out the coupon codes that are evergreen, or, you know, the stores that repeatedly, you know, I mean, almost every store has 20% somewhere. You know, I remember that from a, you know, bargaining just in as a retail customer. You know, I mean, that's a foregone conclusion. There's 20% somewhere. But yeah, by 25 times, that's a much easier way to go deep, and it's going to make your life a lot easier if anything, you know, anything drastic happens. Now, let me ask you this. So we talked about, you know, when we focused on Lego, Fisher Price, and Funko, which all three of those I can still sell. I did get gated in Pokemon, though. That was one that I noticed. But This has happened with different brands before, right? Like, Nike had a couple waves of it. That got a heck of a lot of mentions on social media. Um, eh, have any of these ever been permanent that you know of? When's the last one that actually something like this happened? It was gated to a large population of sellers and remained that way.
Well, I can't say that that's been the case. I mean, let's go back to Nike, for example. We saw those steep drops from Nike, and it's no longer that way. You know,
Right.
uh, it bounced back.
And some people got it back easily. Some people had to fight. But
Yeah,
the ones that had to fight also seem to be the ones that have a heck of a lot of units on the line. So
yeah. And there's something to be said for that, especially for people who grew their businesses very quickly. This is gonna sound like I'm calling out a particular subsection of the Amazon seller, and I'm not. I'm just correlating here, But it does seem like the people who had the hardest time getting that back were the people who went from 0 to 100 Nike ASINs, very very quickly, selling a lot of one particular brand. Let's be honest, when you have as much data as Amazon does, that probably tends to look suspicious. I'm going to come in on a really popular brand. I'm going to go deep and wide across this particular catalog, and I'm going to scale up, in 60 days, very, very quickly. That's suspicious, because Amazon's seen that in the past, where a Chinese seller or another seller will come on, they'll pull that exact same move, they'll get one or two payouts, and then come to find out, nothing's getting shipped to the customer, even though they got some money, and then they're gone. And oh, you can't draw the money from that bank account or that credit card because it doesn't actually exist. So I get why they do that kind of thing. All right, this is just a little blip that I thought was interesting when we talk about these gatings and things like that. New study came out called State of the Fakes. And the rate of products that were quote unquote unidentified, which is industry parlance for not passing muster with authenticators, rose to 8.8% in 2023, which is a 20% increase from 2022 of 7.2%. So of all the goods that you buy, they have an 8.8% chance of being fake. All right. Um, there is better news for Canada and Mexico, and both of their fakes seem to fall. Canada from 6.3% to 5.2%, Mexico from 7.6% to 6.3%. Very easy to make the correlation there. Those are both much smaller marketplaces. So it doesn't make sense to, put as many resources into faking products in those particular marketplaces. But here is this statistic is crazy. Nike's Jordan 1 Retro Low OG SP Fragment X Travis Scott. Holy cow. Like, does that seriously need to be a name for a shoe? Okay. But this Travis Scott Jordan shoe was more likely to be found fake than authentic. 55.3% of those shoes were fake.
wow.
Yeah,
That has to be a very limited supply, right? I mean, that's the only way that number gets that high.
I believe so. I believe that is a very limited shoe, very, a collector shoe, so it is an outlier, uh, in multiple ways. But I thought that was fascinating.
You want to know how much of a boomer I am? Travis Scott. So that you just mentioned the shoe, and I think he had a meal at McDonald's. So he's that
Yes,
famous. I have no idea who that is.
I, I Okay. Hate that I know this. If I'm not mistaken, he's only famous because he dated a Kardashian.
See, that's by default. That's what I assumed. I if you go with that guess, right? Like this is how to fake not being as big a boomer. Just assume that they dated a Kardashian. That I seriously, that's what I was gonna say. I don't know if
Right.
I secretly knew that, if I have a cache of unknown subconscious pop culture knowledge, or whether they are just that promiscuous that it's got decent odds of being right.
Right. All right. Let's answer a couple questions, and then we'll get you guys on your merry way. So Kwame, when you receive a response while ungating that says your application was closed because you have submitted too many applications, what do? You open up a new one and you keep sending them in. I mean, that's all you can do. I would change things around. You're obviously, you're not passing muster. So you might have to try a different source. You might have to change the name of the documents, maybe annotate the documents, highlight what they should be looking at. Like, so, and I know someone else in here said, hey, are you guys going to release a podcast about your section 3? It's coming. It's being edited right now. It's going to be like an hour and 40 minutes of all section 3 information. But we talk about annotating things properly in there, and there is a right way to do it. You want to make sure that everything is laid out so that the person who's having, the person who comes to work and their girlfriend just broke up with them, their dog just died, the coffee maker's broken, and it's 11:55 right before lunch, and they got to get through one more document before they say screw it and go have something to eat. You got to make it clear for that person. Like that, honestly, we need to think like that all the time when we're dealing with Amazon seller support. Like, you should be very happy if you get the person who is like an A player, but you need to expect that you're going to be working with, the D and F players on the team more often than not.
Yeah, and if the wording is specific, I mean, if that your application was closed because you've submitted too many applications, check and see if that means concurrently. If you have multiple, like there was that anecdotal advice, to close any existing applications and then just have one active at a time. Yeah, try messing with that too. If you have a bunch of concurrent ones that are still open, close those out before you resubmit too.
That's a good idea.
Might be worth.
Corey, have either of you heard of any additional risk associated with getting multiple inauthentic complaints for a fairly high sales volume? So far, just 1 out of 100 total sales. I mean, if it's a high volume item, it certainly helps. But if it's like, let's say it's a toy, for example, I think that even 1 out of 100 is pretty high, in my opinion. If it's a clothing item, that sounds about right, because I know that people will submit inauthentic complaints because maybe they gained a couple of pounds and their polo t-shirt doesn't fit the right way. And so rather than admit that, they packed on a few, they'll be like, oh, this is fake. It fits differently. Um, you know, but I don't know if it's like more risk if you're getting 1 out of 100. 1%, that's pretty solid. And the risk should be fairly minimal if you've got really good documentation. Lexar, we talked about this one on the buy and holds. Let's see here. And guys, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. We'll get to them. Shannon says, if they do start limiting multi-packs in grocery, is there a way to make a listing that states buy a second at a 10% discount? Yes, Amazon offers those kind of coupon options. Absolutely. You can go in there and offer multi-quantity discounts. That's no problem at all. Jerry, on receipts from retail arbitrage, what is the best procedure for supplying the information for a Section 3 or IP complaint if the information is not on the retail store receipt? So, something that I've always did with retail arbitrage receipts is they get scanned in. Okay, I use a scan snap. That's what I keep with me all the time, and so they get scanned in. And then if you need to use them, a lot of times the information is at the top of the receipt. And I'll just make sure to highlight that. But if it's not, and maybe it just has the name of the store or something like that, I always take it, put it into Snagit is what it's called, and I then write the information out in red. It looks like red writing or red lettering with a white outline, so it's very easy to see. And I put the name of the store, the location, or the address, maybe the store number if it's available. I put the phone number. If I can find out who the manager is, I'll put the manager's name. And that is not altering the receipt. That is annotating the receipt. There's a big difference. You don't want to make it look like you typed in the address right in the receipt itself. So I always put it off over to the side.
Jerry, I've been waiting for you to pop up again. I was looking for you last week, and I didn't see you, but I've been waiting, and I want you to look. Let me try to get my big noggin out. Look, I've cleaned my area. Okay, I've decluttered, so I expect some recognition in the comment section, Jerry. Please.
Right. Sorry, looking for some more questions here. Joy, if you're already selling a product or a brand, are you saying they can get you on that same product even though you have product in stock? Yeah, absolutely. So I'll say this. I'm going to say this in two ways. From the seller perspective, that it sucks. It's one of the risks that you take, and it's why we talk about going wide and shallow. You can always buy more down the road. There's always another sale. Okay. But it can be harder to sell on another marketplace. Not impossible, but harder if you get gated. But on the other hand, we're playing in Amazon's playground. Like, it's their sandbox. They make the rules. If they want to gate a particular brand for any reason, whether that is because the brand themselves want people not to be able to sell the product, or they think there's a lot of counterfeits, or Amazon wants to sell it, yeah, they can gate the product at any time. They can just shut down listings. I've got a product right now, sold 8 of the units out of the 10 that were purchased. The other 2 are stranded because now the listing has been removed, and it was a good listing. So I've got to get those other 2 and either find a new listing or flip them on eBay once I get them back. And yeah, what happens to the stock you have? It gets returned to you. You can have it returned. You could destroy it. You could donate it. But I would suggest that you get it returned to you or a service and try to sell it somewhere else. Get as much of that cash back as possible.
Luke, I'm not getting lights. It's not going to happen.
Oh, Luke, last time you decided to go deep, Common Sense Distributor came on the listing with 500 units and tanked. Yeah, that can be rough. They've got deep pockets, and so they sell for very slim margins. I heard they were suspended recently too. They came back, but that'd be rough. They do like 60, 70 million a year. Is shipping from Asia still high right now? Unfortunately, I don't keep my finger on the pulse of transatlantic shipping, or I guess that would be trans-Pacific shipping. typically. But I don't do PL, and so I don't pay attention to it too much. I know that the PL sellers I pay attention to, I know that they were talking about it, but I haven't seen any updates.
Is that strike related at all, or is that its own? Does it
I
have its own fluctuations?
That's a good question. I would imagine it could still be strike related. I bet you they're I'm sure they're probably still backed up a bit at the ports.
Yeah, but at least it
Uh,
should
so
ease over time.
Yeah, I would imagine. So, do you think all these multi packs with magnets now will go to Walmart? I don't know. I
Hmm.
just got approved for a Walmart account, so I don't know what the rules are yet over there.
Trader.
Certainly possible, right? I know. I talk trash about Walmart, and then I go get. I got to know what it's like. Uh, uh, you know, I got to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. If Walmart allows it, I'm sure that a lot of people will go over there. I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, Walmart's great; it's the best thing ever." And I've had a couple people who are like, "Yeah, Walmart, like whatever your expectations are, lower them." Was one of the messages I got. Uh, so I don't know. We'll see.
That's how I proposed to my wife too. Lower your expectations, and I'll never disappoint you.
uh, Kwame, even the submission to close the application comes back with the same response. Maybe take a break. Take your foot off the gas for just a little bit. It's all right to coast for a week or two. Give them some cooling off time. Let them forget your name, and then try to reapply down the road. Um, that's probably the best thing to do. Shannon, can you offer discounts on listings you yourself did not create? Yes, absolutely. You can offer coupons on your products. Absolutely. Kent, suggestions for an Amazon purchase to ungate that was denied because I didn't have 50 units, but the application doesn't have the 50 unit threshold on it, just 10. I'm going to go back to this is Amazon's sandbox, so they can do what they want. And I'm also going to go back to the thing I mentioned at the very beginning, where there was probably a memo that was passed out, and it said, "Hey, if it's coming from Amazon, it's got to be 50 units, and even if it says 10 when you opened the application, well, the employee doesn't know that. So you have a couple of options: one, comply; two, go find somewhere else where you can just get 10 units. There are other places that will work; or three, take screenshots of the application page and say, hey, it says I only need 10 here. That third one, my guess, is the least likely to work. Joe, how serious do you take Vori's letters? Um, Vori's letters get put in the round file, in the circular file. They go right in the trash. Vori's and all of their attorneys can, yeah, they suck. 99% of those are not going to be a big deal, in my opinion. I will send the documents to my attorney so that he can send them a letter back that is, it says F off in legalese, essentially.
It is with Vori's letters. It's important to stretch a little bit, whatever your dunking hand is, as you slam it into the trash after you've crumpled it up. You want to be nice and loose, and also they are in a bunch of major cities, so either if you're driving with somebody, have them hold the wheel steady because it is usually in an urban area, so there is some traffic and some congestion. But you want a steady wheel so that you can get the window down because you have to honk the horn and lift your middle finger at the same time, which is why it's important to have someone with you to steady. Either they can lay on the horn and you hold it and flip the brake, whatever. But I mean, you definitely want to yell and give them a special salute when you drive by their offices.
Absolutely.
So it's very, very serious.
So the strike for the ports, yes, it was East Coast and Gulf states. However, that it did cause backups in the West Coast ports, because as soon as that happened, as soon as it even became something that was going to be an issue at all, there were several, I'm guessing a lot of ships, based on the articles that I read, that were sent over to the West Coast. And it probably would not make sense to send them back to the Gulf coasts or Gulf ports or the East ports if they were already on their way to the West Coast. FOAB, sorry if you already covered this, but are multi-packs no longer allowed on Amazon? Not referring to the generic or magnet ones, but the brands. Multi-packs, if they are not created by the manufacturer and they're consumables, they are not allowed on Amazon, is what they say. We went much deeper into that a little bit earlier, so you'll want to go back and watch that because we've got a lot of opinion on that.
My girls are going to have a lot of sold as a set stickers to play with.
Right. Has anyone noticed Amazon has taken away the invoice option on their Amazon business account? I have not looked recently, so I can't say that I have noticed. But even if they don't have the invoice option, which I thought I saw someone talk about this recently, I'll have to go double check. Their receipts will do the trick. Joy, y'all are hilarious. Thank you. I appreciate that. We try to have keep it light a little bit around here.
Yeah, I mean, we're dying. Our industry is dying. So what else can you do besides laugh, right?
Right. Corey, this is how you get booted, brother. This is how you get banned from the channel.
It's a good thing this microphone's in the way.
Right.
Let me at him.
Yes. Ohio State had a loss. The quarterback made some silly mistakes that a veteran quarterback should probably not make. Oregon, the Ducks won. The Ducks used a loophole in the NCAA rules to beat the system a little bit. Now, whether or not that would have changed the outcome of the game, I can't say, but it is enough that the NCAA is looking into it. So the Ducks are nowhere in the same league like that team from up north, but that was a tough game. The fault is on me. It is not on the Ohio State Buckeyes that they lost to the Ducks. I know that I'm not supposed to watch big games. It's supposed to be on in another room. I'm supposed to be able to listen to it, but I'm not supposed to actually look at the screen, during games against that team up north or other big games during the season. And I broke my rule and made Ohio State lose. So to the Buckeye fans out there, I apologize because it is my fault.
Like Ryan Day has to take some blame, though.
I'll give you that.
22 seconds. There was 22 seconds when they wound that clock, and they didn't snap it until 15. You have to know that's a running clock. That's a whole extra play if he is aware of the rules and calls timeout right there. So,
Deborah, what's the difference between Keepa Academy and Keepa SOP? Keepa Academy is a deep dive into everything about Keepa. You're going to learn how to actually read a Keepa chart on a cellular level. Okay. Because there's a lot of information out there that's bad. My favorite is sales rank drops equal sales. They're actually equal to each other. That's total bull. And it's something that a lot of big influencers in this space talk about. And so we break down why that's not the case and how to better read those graphs. We teach you everything about how to use every single feature and then kind of give you the building blocks to be able to create your own Keepa SOPs. But there is, there's two ways to do things. There's the do it yourself, which the Keepa Academy allows you to do it yourself. But then some people, they just want it done for them. And so we went in and we created the SOPs, based on Twitter threads that I've written and posts and videos that I've created. And then we've even created some based on things that people have asked, like, hey, how would I do this? And so we turned those into SOPs as well. And so they are separate. They are different. One is do it yourself, learn everything. The other one is here's exactly what you need to do to get this result. Okay.
And it's good when it's copied almost verbatim and another guru slaps their name on it, which is something the team from Ann Arbor might do, actually.
Exactly. That does sound exactly like something they would do. Jeffrey, how deep is too deep to go when purchasing inventory? For example, a listing sells like 100 units a month with like 5 to 10 sellers on the listing. So I'll tell you what, 20 is typically about as deep as I'll go on anything. There are some occasions where that rule is broken. The buy cost is just incredibly low. I know that maybe it's going to be something that sells over the next 3 or 4 months, and I'm okay with that because like maybe there's a limited amount of stock, and I know that they're going to be out of stock once I purchase through all of it. So there's always a reason to break the rule, and I will do that on occasion. But typically, it's 10 to 20 units. Matter of fact, I had this conversation with Chris, was replenishing something, and I wanted to go deeper, and he talked me out of it. I was like, hey, it'll be there again, to replenish it again, but don't go crazy and don't, you don't want to lose or you don't want to have the opportunity cost be something that bites you. And so on the replenish, only did like, I think 25 units, like doubled the previous order. And so I think that's the best answer. And never spend more than, and set a rule. I don't think you should spend more than 2 or 3% of your inventory on any particular ASIN. Or sorry, 2 or 3% of your capital on any particular ASIN. That way you can have a very balanced portfolio. All right. Yeah, Chris, I'm a little embarrassed by this, but this is a safe space. I was almost arrested this week. Fortunately, I wasn't, and I learned a really good lesson. I threw sodium chloride at my neighbor who was being an absolute ass, and I found out you can't do that. That's assault. And for those of you in Ann Arbor, I know that one is way above your head, but I'll do something simpler on the next one.
Do you see that? There's actually the girl who adds table salt to her sodium, and it mixes them together to try to even out the flavor. It's been stitched by a couple of the people who knock down the health gurus. So I don't know if it's real, but it feels Ann Arborish.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. That's I think that's the show this week. We'll be back next Wednesday at 5:00 to do this again with you guys. Until then, stay sane in the Amazon social media sphere, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.